chocolate. Whether enjoyed as a snack or given as a gift to a loved one on Valentine's Day, Americans have often associated chocolate with such values as love, comfort, and happiness. But at the turn of the 21st century, chocolate started to take on a whole different meaning when it was revealed that some of the cocoa that American chocolate companies were using came from West African cocoa farms that used forms of child and slave labor. With this news, and help from the fair trade movement, emphasis has shifted more to the production of chocolate, rather than the value of chocolate to the consumer herself. I argue that since the year 2000, chocolate has been gradually changing from a symbol of commodity fetishism to one of ethical consumerism in the United States. Let's first define commodity fetishism. Karl Marx, who first introduced the term, describes commodity fetishism as the socioeconomic objectification of a commodity into a fetish, an object with intrinsic value and an independent economic reality in a capitalist society. In other words, a value is psychologically transformed into an object. People in a capitalist society tend to treat commodities as if these objects take on some inherent value, rather than valuing the labor that was used to make those objects. What's valued is not who made the commodity, or even what the commodity's use is, but rather how that commodity is perceived culturally. Americans eat over 11.5 pounds of chocolate per year. This popularity of chocolate has not stemmed because chocolate is viewed solely as a food, but because consumers have valued the love, comfort, and luxury that chocolate is supposed to bring. American chocolate companies, like Hershey's and Mars, have catered to this commodity fetishism through their marketing and advertising. For example, this Hershey's advertisement from the 1930s shows a boy and girl sharing a Hershey's kiss. This ad is implying that Hershey's chocolate creates a loving relationship between people. But such advertisements focus on the value that chocolate can bring to the consumer, and not the work and the effort that was put in to make that chocolate. Before the 21st century, few Americans were aware of how their chocolate was actually being made. Then, in September 2000, a British television documentary entitled Slavery, A Global Investigation, reported that hundreds of thousands of children in West Africa were being purchased from their parents and sold as slaves to work on cocoa plantations in the Ivory Coast. Many of these children were malnourished, overworked, and severely beaten. What's worse is that big-name United States chocolate companies like Hershey's and Nestle USA were getting their cocoa supply from these West African cocoa farms. Such news came as a shock to the American people, and popularity grew for fair trade chocolate. Fair trade is a social movement that aims to help producers in developing countries make better trading conditions and promote sustainability. Fair Trade USA is the leading third-party certifier of fair trade products in the United States. Raymond Bryant and Michael Goodman, in their article Consuming Narratives, The Political Ecology of Alternative Consumption, state, "Fair trade has long striven to reconnect producers and consumers, lifting the shroud of commodity fetishism to unveil commodities' productive origins." This unveiling process is designed to educate consumers to move beyond their own self-interest in making purchasing choices. The knowledge produced through the fair trade works to defetishize the commodity. Through activism and ethical consumerism, American consumers are becoming more educated about the benefits of fair trade chocolate. For example, the Raise the Bar Hershey campaign is a movement whose goal is to make the Hershey Company go fair trade. Much of Hershey's cocoa comes from West Africa, and while the company had been aware of the child labor being used, they had been hesitant to change their cocoa source due to the cost of actually finding which cocoa was being produced by child labor and which cocoa wasn't. However, in October 2012, Hershey finally obliged to the demands of ethical consumers and pledged to be 100% fair trade by 2020. This is a huge deal, as Hershey accounts for 42.5% of the United States chocolate market. And, with chocolate becoming an increasingly important symbol of ethical consumerism in the United States, numerous chocolate companies are responding by producing ads that emphasize that their chocolate is indeed fair trade. In conclusion, the revelations of the child labor practices on the West African cocoa farms help to bring a new meaning for chocolate in the United States. Indeed, through ethical consumerism, Americans are slowly defetishizing chocolate and looking at this commodity from both the consumer's and producer's perspective.